So we have the content creators with their pitchforks out for Donkey Kong Returns HD being sold for $60. I'm not going to buy the game because I'm not the biggest fan of Donkey Kong, but I did buy Link's Awakening remake, which was also $60. A game which went on to sell some 6.5 million copies. I also bought the Super Mario RPG remake, which hit 3.3 million, which also debuted at $60. I'm not here to tell people how to spend their money. And I wish these people whining about Nintendo's prices would stop telling people how to spend theirs. It would also be great if these people weren't pocket watching a corporation selling products people don't need and are under no obligation to buy. Nintendo sells video games. Nintendo does not sell water and electricity. For these types of products no one needs, consumers are going to spend to get the most value for their dollar, and merchants are going to price their products for the most dollar for their value. Nintendo believes Donkey Kong Country Returns is valuable enough to the market to price the game this high. If the market disagrees and it flops, they'll discount the game. What if Nintendo did a remake of Zelda 2 and charged $60? Would you buy it? What about Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD for $60? Every merchant is charging $60 to $70 a game right now. This is the going rate. Nintendo makes their money almost entirely from game sales, and they don't have their games full of microtransactions, and Nintendo doesn't have any live service games. Even when factoring in their movies, merchandise, and their new theme park, the success of these is predicated on the success of their video game business. The best thing any of us can do is vote with our wallet and not buy the game if you think it's not worth the price. Do this consistently with all the games, not just the ones you don't like, and Nintendo will be forced to lower its prices to what the market will bear. We saw Metroid Prime Remaster debut for $40 to the praise of everyone across the internet, who proceeded to not buy the game as it barely sold 1 million copies. Funny how the internet has praise for stuff which doesn't sell, but all the smoke for what is commercially successful. Contrarianism is a powerful drug. People are going to spend the money on what they believe is worth it. This will be different for each person. There's a game you wish Nintendo would remake, you would pay $60 for. Price really depends on the consumer. If the game flops, they'll price Donkey Kong games like Metroid games. You won't see $60 price tags for Donkey Kong games anymore. It's not so much about justifying the price as it is understanding why it's priced this high. Pricing is based on value. There's a reason they call it a merchant-suggested retail price. It's what the merchant feels the product is worth. It doesn't mean they're right. This is for you to decide. Again, I'm not going to call any company immoral or unethical for pricing their goods the way they do when these are totally unnecessary items like video games. The Neo Geo back in the day was an awesome system with a lot of spectacular games. They attempted to bring the arcade game to the home and completely flopped because they priced themselves out of the market. The Neo Geo came with a $650 price tag, which included the system, 1 game, and 2 controllers. This price would be the equivalent of an N64 with 8 games. You recently had Power release their game, which sold spectacularly for $25. They may have undervalued the game, but this was a relatively unknown developer putting out a new game. You have to earn the right to sell at a high price. If Nintendo prices their game too high, it hurts them more than the consumer, as no one will buy their game and they'll take their business elsewhere. As we all know, the Switch is a commercial juggernaut, all while pricing high and never having sales. You can't have this type of success unless what you're selling has immense value. Do I think Nintendo selling any game for $60 is bad? I suppose, if I personally don't think a particular game is worth it, but then there's other games where I think it is worth it. It really depends on the game and my own taste, and this is the same for everyone. I can't definitively say Neo Geo pricing their systems and games the way they did was wrong, but I wasn't going to buy their games at those prices, despite many of those games being awesome. In fairness to Neo Geo, that pricing was more about how much it would cost to make the system and the games while still being able to turn a profit. Unlike other platforms, they were giving you a one-to-one arcade experience for your home. The technology at the time to make that possible wasn't cheap, and they couldn't afford to sell the technology they were making at the market price. Same thing happened to Sony with the PS3. They packed a lot of bleeding edge technology in there to sell at the price that they did. They eventually came down, but this was after components became cheaper and they took away several features from the system to get it to market price. As you may have guessed, I love Zelda, but I'm not paying $200 to play a Zelda game. There are those who wouldn't pay $70 for a Zelda game, despite the fact that many people, including myself, did. Neither is right or wrong. Many of those people who didn't think Zelda was worth it thought Spider-Man 2 was worth it, and that's perfectly fine. We have more control over these situations than we realize. All these companies are watching spending habits on these games and are pricing their products accordingly. They can only do what we allow them to do. All the YouTube videos hating on Nintendo will mean nothing if this game hits 5 million by summertime next year. Is Donkey Kong Country Returns HD worth $60? We'll soon find out.